Two small fish became enough food to feed 15,000 people with 12 baskets of leftovers. Restaurant mathematicians still can't figure out how this is possible. You cannot get 15,000 meals from two fish unless matter is being created from nothing. This happened 2,000 years ago, and it violates every law of conservation known to science. Quick question before we dive in. Have you ever faced a problem where your resources seem pathetically small compared to what you needed? Drop impossible in the comments if you felt like what you have could never be enough. Because what happened on a hillside near the Sea of Galilee will change how you see scarcity forever. Picture this. 15,000 hungry people trapped on a remote hillside with no food stores for miles. Night is falling. Children are crying and panic is setting in. One boy offers his lunch. 2 small fish and 5 pieces of bread. Everyone knows it's hopeless. But then someone decides to try the mathematically impossible. But here's what will blow your mind. If you had to feed 15,000 people and someone handed you 2 fish, would you even attempt it, or would you give up before trying? Keep watching, because what happened next created more food than existed and proved that divine mathematics operates beyond human limitations. The hills near Bethsaida, around 30 AD, a young teacher named Marcus had been traveling from village to village, teaching about divine love and performing incredible healings. Word spread quickly wherever he went, and crowds began following him everywhere. On this particular day, what started as a small gathering of curious villagers had grown into something unprecedented. By mid-afternoon, Marcus looked out over the hillside and estimated the crowd at nearly 15,000 people, men, women, children, elderly, all sitting on the grassy slopes, hanging on his every word. They had been there since early morning, so captivated by his teaching that no one wanted to leave. But now reality was setting in. As evening approached, Marcus's 12 closest followers became increasingly worried. This wasn't a small group they could manage. This was a massive crowd in a remote location. Marcus, his assistant Peter whispered urgently, we need to send these people away. It's getting late, there are no towns nearby, and everyone's getting hungry. Some families have been here for hours with no food. Marcus looked at the vast crowd, families with young children, elderly people who had walked miles to hear him speak, working people who had given up their days' wages to be here. The nearest villages were hours away, and most of these people didn't have money to buy food, even if stores were available. You give them something to eat? Marcus replied calmly. Peter stared at him in disbelief. Are you serious? Do you see how many people are here? We'd need 8 months' wages just to buy bread for everyone to have a small piece. Let's break down the mathematics that made this situation impossible. 15,000 people, 5,000 men plus women and children, as ancient counting typically only counted adult males. Multiple hours of walking, maybe enough to feed 50 people. 0 food vendors in this remote location. Sunset approaching, no artificial lighting. The logistics were overwhelming. Even if they had unlimited money, there was nowhere to buy food for 15,000 people in the middle of nowhere. Pause. Have you ever been in a situation where the numbers just didn't add up? Where what you needed was impossibly more than what you had available? Share your experience in the comments below. ****. As Marcus and his followers debated what to do, a young boy approached them. He looked to be about 10 years old, carrying a small woven basket. Teacher, the boy said shyly, I have my lunch. My mother packed it this morning. It's not much, but you can have it if it helps. He opened his basket to reveal the contents. 2 small fish, probably dried, about the size of sardines, and 5 small barley loaves, more like rolls or biscuits than modern bread loaves. Peter looked at the boy's lunch and almost laughed. Son, that's very kind, but that's barely enough food for one person, let alone 15,000. But Marcus took the basket and looked at its contents thoughtfully. Marcus held the basket containing what was mathematically the most inadequate meal in history. 2 fish and 5 pieces of bread to feed 15,000 people. Any reasonable person would have handed the food back to the boy and sent the crowd home. The math was so impossible, it was almost insulting to even consider. But Marcus made a decision that defied all logic. Have the people sit down in groups of about 50. His followers stared at him. Marcus, what are you doing? You can't possibly be serious about trying to feed everyone with a child's lunch. Just organize them into groups, Marcus insisted. Despite their doubts, the 12 followers began organizing the massive crowd into manageable groups. It took nearly an hour to get 15,000 people arranged in orderly groups of about 50 each, roughly 300 groups scattered across the hillside. The crowd was curious but cooperative. Word spread through the groups. The teachers are to feed us all. Some people laughed. Others were skeptical. Many were simply desperate enough to hope for a miracle. Marcus stood in the center with the boys' small basket, looking out over a sea of expectant faces. What happened next has been debated by mathematicians, physicists, and economists for 2,000 years. Marcus took the 2 fish and 5 loaves, looked up to heaven, and gave thanks. Then he began breaking the food and distributing it to his followers to carry to the groups. But something impossible started happening. As they broke the food and distributed it, there was always more. Not just enough, but abundant portions for everyone. Here's what makes this scientifically impossible. Matter cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. Creating food from nothing would require enormous energy input. Fish and bread are complex organic structures that can't spontaneously generate. Living tissue doesn't multiply on command. Yet witnesses reported seeing exactly that: 2 fish becoming thousands of fish, 5 loaves becoming thousands of loaves. Group by group, the food was distributed. Every single person, all 15,000, received not just a small portion, but enough to be completely satisfied. The followers carrying the food reported the same impossible experience. No matter how much they gave away, their baskets never emptied. They would break off pieces, distribute them, and find the containers still full. Children ate until they were content. Adults had second helpings. Elderly people who hadn't had a good meal in weeks were fully nourished. Pause. If you witnessed food multiply in real time, would you trust your eyes or assume you were hallucinating? How would you explain matter being created from nothing? Share your thoughts below. ****. When everyone was completely satisfied, Marcus told his followers, "Gather up the leftover pieces so nothing is wasted." This is where the story becomes even more remarkable. After 15,000 people had eaten their fill from 2 fish and 5 loaves, there were 12 full baskets of leftover food. Think about that. They ended up with more food than they started with, even after feeding 15,000 people. This wasn't a private miracle witnessed by a few people. 15,000 individuals saw the same thing happen. That's larger than most modern sports stadiums. Word spread throughout the region within days. Did you hear what happened at Bethsaida? 2 fish fed 15,000 people. There were baskets full of leftovers. From an economic standpoint, what happened violated basic supply and demand principles. There was essentially no food available. 2 fish should have nearly zero value for feeding 15,000 people. Impossible logistics for food service. Everyone received abundant portions plus leftovers. Modern economists have no framework for explaining how scarcity became abundance without any external input. We live in a world obsessed with mathematical limitations. We don't have enough resources. The budget won't stretch that far. There's not enough to go around. This story challenges our fundamental assumptions about scarcity and abundance. It suggests that divine multiplication can transform inadequate resources into overwhelming provision. You may be facing your own 2 fish and 15,000 people situation right now. A financial crisis where your resources are pathetically small compared to your needs. A relationship problem where your love doesn't seem enough for the healing required. A career challenge where your skills feel inadequate for the task ahead. This story reminds us that divine mathematics works differently than human mathematics. Sometimes the answer isn't getting more resources. It's seeing what you have multiplied beyond natural limitations. The boy who offered his lunch teaches us something profound. He didn't calculate whether his gift was adequate. He didn't do the math to see if 2 fish could feed 15,000 people. He simply offered what he had and trusted someone else to make it enough. Maybe the miracle isn't just about food multiplication. Maybe it's about what happens when we offer our inadequate resources for purposes bigger than ourselves. This hillside meal became legendary throughout the ancient world. For generations, parents would tell their children, Remember the day 2 fish fed 15,000 people. Never think your contribution is too small. The story spread so widely that it influenced economic and social thinking for centuries. Communities began approaching scarcity differently, wondering if sharing small resources might somehow create abundance. Final challenge. What 2 fish do you have that seems impossibly small for the need you're facing? Share this video with someone who feels like their resources are inadequate for their challenges. Sometimes divine multiplication starts with offering what seems like nothing. Asterisk, asterisk. That's the day mathematics bowed to divine provision, and scarcity became abundance through supernatural multiplication. The 2 fish that fed 15,000 people still challenge our understanding of limitation and possibility. If this story gave you hope for your own impossible math situations, drop multiply in the comments and subscribe for more incredible true stories that prove divine provision operates beyond human calculations.